bonsoir, dear friends. I'm delighted today to travel to the fabulous country of Texas. Texas has not declared its own independence yet. It's maybe on the verge to come. They are so powerful because they have amazing people. My very good friend, Scott Tarwater, we're going to change his name today to Scott Tarwine, because forget water, has been in the hospitality business for many, many years. He studied hospitality. He's the king, the veteran. He is the man behind so many great concepts at Landrys. Among them, he's just created, as he bought the Palm, the famous restaurant group. We created an amazing wine together we'll talk about. But what is so cool with Scott is we're going to be talking about hospitality, restaurant, the world that he lives in. It's going to be fascinating. So buckle up, dear friends, and welcome our wonderful friend, Scott himself. And look at that, Scott. Cheers. Woo! Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Cheers, cheers. Yeehaw. Is it how we say in Texas? Yeehaw.
I like it.
So, Scott, why hospitality many moons ago? Why did you go into that fabulous but very tough field?
Got a really interesting story on how that happened. As a matter of fact, somebody asked me a few days ago that very, very question. And it started with, at my 16 years old, on my summer, my parents took me to the country of Bermuda. And while I was in Bermuda, I had the opportunity to have a little moped, and I could kind of travel around the island on my own. So that little bit of independence was very, very enchanting and enlightening for a 16-year-old to be able to drive on the road in the beautiful country of Bermuda. I made up this hill and came down on the other side, and at the bottom was the beautiful Princess Hotel, situated right on the ocean. Gorgeous coral pink in color. And it just drew me in, and I took my moped right up and parked it, and I had to go inside this magnificent structure. I walked around the property as a 16-year-old, and I got to this one hallway, and I heard this thump, thump, thump. And it was the music of a discotheque. And they were practicing their music and their lighting show, but the doors were completely closed. So here I am, I'm peeking in the door to try to see what's going on, and they're doing their light show. They're doing their music and making sure the sound is right for that night's show. I get a tap, tap, tap on my back shoulder, and I turn around, and it's the general manager of the Princess Hotel. And he said, "Would you like to go in there?" And I just lit up. I'm like, absolutely. He brought me in, he showed me the entire nightclub, and he said, "You know what? If you have 30 minutes, I'm going to show you the entire property." And so the general manager of the Princess Hotel in Bermuda walked me around. At the end of that 30 minutes, I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. When I got back to my folks later on that afternoon, I told them I am positive I'm going to go to hotel restaurant school. The gentleman even told me, he said, "Where do you live?" And I said, "Upstate New York." He said, "There's a fabulous 2-year program that can launch your career and get you started in a little college called Paul Smith College, which specializes in hotel restaurant management." And that's how it started.
Wow, what a story. This is why taking time with youth is essential for inspiration. So he became your mentor.
Yes, it was absolutely wonderful. And I knew at that moment, within 3 weeks, I already was applying for scholarships as a 16-year-old. I wasn't going to graduate until I was 18 from high school. I had already put my application in to go to Paul Smith College, and that's exactly where I went. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And that is exactly 43 years ago that I graduated.
And have you been in touch with that general manager?
I have not, but I owe him a bunch.
Hey, on your side, I know you're an incredible leader. What makes you such an amazing leader in the hospitality world you live in?
You know, it's an interesting question, and it's probably better answered by other people that are around me rather than myself. But one thing that was instilled in me, not only in school, but really from my parents, is my dad told me, if you work hard, you'll never be in trouble. Just work hard. And that's what I've always done. I'm very physically involved with all of our properties. This wine room that we're in right now in downtown Houston at the brand new Palm Steakhouse that opened up 11 days ago on October 1st. This room, every bit of this here, every bottle has my fingerprints on it. I put every single wine in here. This holds 1,296 bottles. But that's really the secret of my success. I am involved physically with our properties. I'm not a clipboard guy. I don't walk around giving direction. I walk around doing, and it's amazing that other people follow and want to do and help as well. And that's really kind of my secret of my success.
Yeah, leading as you act on things. I've seen you for many, many years now. So I was hoping this was the example. There's so many other qualities in your leadership skills, and we'll go back to some of them later. Now, you're a great mentor as well. How do you mentor others, as it's so important, especially in the world of hospitality?
Yeah, I think I have kind of a special knack for finding talent and kind of cultivating it. But you know, there's one thing that I've realized for a long, long time now is I can't teach passion. It has to be inside of you. And when I find that person and I can see passion, that's the person that I want to shape. That's the person that I gravitate towards because it's the one thing that I can't teach. I can teach them about wine. I can teach them about how to build spreadsheets, how to do incredible inventories, how to manage their properties from a liquor, beer, and wine standpoint. But the one thing I can't teach is passion. And if they have that, I know I've got the right person and I can groom them to be extraordinarily successful themselves.
How do you, Scott, define passion?
Oh, it's internal. It comes from deep down in your belly. You can feel it. Believe me. And my lady friends feel the same way. I am a passionate guy. It's just the way that I am, and it's good. It puts a smile on your face, and I think that keeps me relatively healthy in that just being passionate about what I do. I love what I do for work, and there is a line of people that would love to have my job, but not quite yet.
Well, you have such a big job that you have many that you're bringing it up, which is very exciting. So, what do you recommend to someone who wants to be you?
Yeah, put in the study. You know, in when I started in the wine business 43 years ago, or call it 40 years ago overall, there was no Google, there was no Bing, there was no search engine in computers. I read books. I would make a bet that I have the most hardback wine books of maybe anybody that I know. My library at home is filled with wine books that are actually read. And so go back and read the Hugh Johnsons of the world. Go back and read from some of these great people like Frank Schoonmaker. Go back and read those, not so much the Google side of the equation, but do your homework. Read the stories, read the background, the history, but especially the romance. There's so much romance in the wine side of the industry. And once you learn those stories, they stay with you forever. It's not something that you're going to forget. So read, I think that's the big, big thing. And then follow it regardless of your pocketbook and what you can afford, but try wines, be around people like myself, like Keith Goldston, Master Sommelier that we have in our company, or other advanced somms and people like yourselves and in the industry. Find groups to join, find people that are passionate as well, and learn together. And I think that that's a wonderful way to get started in this industry.
Now, you've been, for many, many years now, part of the most powerful, dynamic, innovative, and fast-moving group in the restaurant and hospitality world, Landrys. So describe us, how has it been? I mean, what a rocky ride, an amazing ride.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. You know, when I got a phone call one day from an old friend who is an executive chef and quite talented, named Ron Pollock, and he has a wonderful set of restaurants down in South Florida. And he gave me a call exactly 20 years ago, and he said, Scott, he said, I am working for a very dynamic man who not only says and dreams big, but he actually follows through. And he says, you and I have been around people that talk the talk, but can't walk the walk, so to speak. He said, this guy does both. And he is looking, he's going to expand his restaurant empire, and he's going to go much higher end with hotels, with casinos, and especially steakhouses. And he says, the guy said, I'm looking for a great wine guy to bring to the company and to get us to the place that we need to go. Because Tillman Fertitta, the owner of our company, he knows he must surround himself with great talent. And that is what I have done at my level and lower. And that is what he has done from the top down. Find great talent, find people that do the things that you can't do or haven't mastered yet. So that story, when I realized that, and very passionate from the chef to tell me, I said, I'm very intrigued. I had a wonderful job at that moment, but I said, I will take a weekend and come out. I want to see what you guys are about, because quite frankly, I didn't really know what Landrys was. And I came and I just had that feeling. I knew that what he said he was going to do, that he would do. And that is absolutely what has happened. You know, I started, I think there were about 145 restaurants in the company, and now there are 600 restaurants in the company, 55 different concepts that we own and operate, 5 casinos with the Golden Nugget Casino brand. He has 9 hotels. He has 2 amusement parks. It's quite dynamic, I promise you. And every day has been different. No 2 days have been the same. And all of them have been a challenge, but in a very positive way. What more can we do? And he has been unbelievably generous with the pocketbook and the financial side of building great wine programs. It takes a lot of inventory. It takes a lot of cash to be tied up to put together these dynamic programs. And he was willing to do that. And you couldn't ask for a better backer and a better way to have a chance to have some of these award-winning wine programs that we do.
And Scott, you said something important. You felt you could be part as a great leader of this incredible enterprise. You're very inspirational. We've been knowing each other for a long time. We've been friends for a long time. I've always looked up and learned a great deal with you. Advise us, for you, how do you know you're ready to have an impact in a larger organization? Because it's not always easy to time the right moment to do so. And you've done it yourself magnificently to run, in essence, with a leading wine program in the United States of America. I mean, that's a huge deal.
You know, an interesting question, and we are in an interesting time right now. And I think everyone that's watching this broadcast, they know this term millennials, and that is the next generation of great wine people, great restaurateurs, et cetera, et cetera. And so they are a slightly different breed. They aren't exactly the same as a couple of generations before them, and definitely generation of mine. They tend to want things quicker. They want things to have a faster pace. They want to be in management at a quicker pace than perhaps would be normal and stuff. So you do have to coach them, and you do have to really give them the reality of things and saying, listen, experience in the trenches is what's going to make you great later on. And so don't miss that opportunity to be in the trenches. Work every aspect of the restaurant, from the back of the house to the front of the house, so that you have extraordinary appreciation for what the other people do. There isn't a day that I don't hug our dishwashers, and I don't hug our line chefs and our sous chefs and our executive chefs. My favorite people in the company, and don't tell anybody, is our chefs. They're wonderful and magnificent, and they have the same kind of passion as well. But that's what these younger folks, and that's what the next generation needs. They need good mentors, but they need to understand there's no fast way. There's no golden ticket. There's no instantaneous gratification. You've got to put the legwork in.
That's right. And thank you for reminding all of us this, because the news or the fake news or the constructed news of some of us, whether it's social media, wherever it is, makes us feel that it's otherwise. And people have false ideas about what life is all about. And often, I agree with you, they think it comes too fast. And there's no secret weapon, there's no golden ticket. I love that.
Right.
Scott, so you're obviously amazing with food and incredible with wine. So you took over the Palm very recently as a major acquisition in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
You've got to get balls to do that. So tell us a little bit about that, because that's a major deal. You own, maybe you remind us a few of the top brands you own, and now the Palm. I mean, this is insane.
Right. Well, for the viewers out there that you're mentioning, you might have had a chance, and so many people have visited the Chart House restaurants. And we tend to have these on bodies of water, typically the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean, dotted up and down the east and west coast. So I think everyone watching has probably been to a Chart House at some time in their life. But we also own Mastro's Steakhouse, which is a worldwide concept, not just the United States. And now added to that, in the last 10 years, we added the terrific powerhouse called Mastro's Steakhouse, and the other properties that they have there called the Ocean Club. Recently, in the last 5 or 6 years, we've added the wonderful Catch Steakhouse. Oh my goodness, what an experience that is. That's a who's who. That's a place to be seen, and you want to be there and covet that spot. And then you mentioned, and it's interesting that our owner, Tillman Fertitta, in the middle of the pandemic, he buys the Palm Steakhouse, and they were struggling. And I think it would be fair to say that if we didn't come in and purchase them, it would probably be a fair statement to say that there would be no Palms at this point in time, and that they would have had to close their doors completely. But instead, he comes in, he buys this property. We have put millions of dollars into renovating each one of them one at a time to really bring them up to snuff. Just like the property that I'm sitting in here today, we closed the Palm Steakhouse in Houston, which had been open for 43 years until October 1st. And now we have this brand new location, and you can bet money this will be here for another 40 years in this location here. So yeah, the Palm Steakhouse is really an interesting thing, started in 1926 in New York City. And the story goes, and I'm going to absolutely believe this because it's been pushed on me and it's been explained to me, and it's an enchanting story, that the Palm wasn't a steakhouse in the original days. It was a restaurant, but not steaks. And it just so happened that a couple of gentlemen came in and they wanted steak for dinner. And the owner kind of just like Tillman Fertitta to this day, he can't say no, even though he doesn't have a piece of beef in the entire property. He runs outdoors, right around the corner to his local butcher shop, and he goes in there and he says, cut me 2 steaks, New York strips right now. The guy cut them, he raced them back into the Palm Steakhouse, or the Palm at that time, cooked them up, and that's how the word steakhouse got added to the Palm. And it's been a steakhouse ever since.
I love it. Hey, by the way, just as a reminder to all our audience, you own Morton's as well. It's not a minor group.
Yes. Yeah, gigantic. I think we're somewhere around 75 locations on a worldwide basis, just tremendous. And another glamorous one that we have out there is our Saltgrass Steakhouse, and a really family style steakhouse with fresh beef, absolutely stunning properties, really kind of Texas to the bone style is kind of their motto for those. But we have now grown that concept in a tremendous way. And we now have those in Oklahoma. We also have them in Colorado and Louisiana. And we just dominate the Texas landscape here with this thing called Saltgrass Steakhouse, a great family steakhouse to enjoy. And so many other concepts. Like I mentioned, we have 55 concepts in total.
Well, which is so cool, Scott. And I love with you, as well as your friends, like Tyler, with whom we did with Morton's a great wine primal cut. You had the vision. And I really want to say the vision and the execution leadership to make it happen with our very good friend Mark Drake and our winemaking team at Raymond, Stephanie Putnam, Faye Knudsen, and Kathy George, to really create the extension, I think, of what makes as well an amazing restaurant is when the team, from the chef to the wine visionary that you are, create the wines to go with it. I mean, this is so cool. Tell us about it, because this is your child.
It is my child, and I absolutely adore it. And I bless you guys for listening to me and saying, you know what, we can do that. We can partner with you. So I don't know if the folks can see this in the back, but these are all bottles of Butcher's Choice here. You guys were good enough, and I'll put a little bit of light on it here. You guys made me a beautiful 6-liter etched bottle right here. And then you see all the Butcher's Choice bottles back here that are coming right from your property. And so let's just talk a little bit, because I just mentioned the whole way that the Palm Steakhouse became a steakhouse is because he ran around the corner to the butcher shop to get steaks. That's why this wine is called the Butcher's Choice. And if you turn that label a little bit, you will actually see a caricature of the butcher himself, and that is actually adorning the label. And that is exactly what that fellow looked like back in 1926. And he adorns our bottle. And it's a wonderful story, and it's a very powerful label. I gotta say, it's kind of sexy.
Well, it's sexy because we designed it together. And I really want to commend you. The name is obviously brilliant. Look at that, dear friends.
Yeah.
Established in 1926. It's a fabulous Napa Cabernet that Scott is going to describe. But look, in off color, glossy, beautiful brown, you have every cut of the butcher. Look at that. This is so fun. I'm in love with it. And I got to tell you, I want to do a great size. As a child, Scott, obviously raised in Burgundy, you rely on your fish person, your meat person, etc. And the butcher is still around, and my parents still get their cuts and favorite things from the same person and the same farm. And it's so essential. I mean, Bria Savarin said, tell me what you eat. I'll tell you who you are. And it's so important to eat right, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you kind of draw a little bit of attention to something that's kind of important to me. Every time I'm in Europe and I'm in my rental car and I'm going from one winery to the next, And I love going through these little small wine towns. And every single time I will see a 70 and 80 and 90-year-old man or woman pedaling their little bicycle with a basket in the front. You can see the loaves of bread hanging out. You can see prosciutto di Parma hanging right out of the basket there. So a butcher, unfortunately, should be a lot bigger deal, and we should still visit our butcher and visit our local fishmonger and buy fresh produce. But the grocery store thing is kind of taken over, but it's a little bit of a shame. But for me, I want to go to a butcher and have it cut right there in front of me. There's just nothing quite like that. I wish there was more of it in the United States.
I'm with you. So, well, you do it in the beautiful Palm Steakhouse now, where you are. So, as we taste the wine, would you be so generous to walk us through the wine tasting? Because, dear friends, what is exciting, and this is a lesson for all of us in Asia right now, France, Europe, Northern America, and obviously South America and Africa. Scott worked very closely with us and our winemaking team to thoroughly design the wine, shape the wine, sculpt the wine, cut the wine, no pun intended, to what it needed to be. And I think this is so cool. So, Scott, if you could describe what you were looking for, how you've designed the wine, and how it goes with meat specifically.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you guys have not only Valley 4 fruit in Napa Valley, but you also have hillside fruit. And I think everyone that watches this show starts to realize their passion, and they start to kind of hone in on different parts of Napa Valley. And so nowadays, it's not just enough to be from Napa. You want some hillside fruit because those vines have struggled to survive. They've struggled to get water. They've struggled to get the mineral content, versus the Valley Floor, a little easier for vines to grow and propagate. So I wanted some hillside fruit. You guys were good enough to be able to put that in front of me. But the whole thing was designed, it had to be powerful enough to handle any style steak. In our portfolio, whether it's a porterhouse, whether it's a filet mignon, whether it's dry aged or wet aged, because we do both in the Palm Steakhouse, but it needed to be a firm with nice backbone. When you smell this wine, stunning aromas of dark berry fruit. I get boysenberries, blueberries, blackberries, black raspberries, almost a whisper of cassis in the background. And so it's what I wanted to have, because that's the kind of wine that is perfectly built and perfectly suited to steak. The tannin levels are beautiful in this. There's just enough to help the digestive process of eating steak. And the other thing that I love to do when I pair and ultimately have the chance to make a wine to go with food is I want the wine to have the same textural of the food that you're eating. And so when I teach this in class, what does your jaw do when you're eating a piece of steak? It has to work hard. It's chewing and it's working hard to eat that steak. And so I want the wine to also be chewy. I want the wine to be big like that. And totally not to back down or back away or shy away from steak, but to actually complement it. And that is a very, very important word, is to complement the food. That is what wine, in my opinion, is for. It is not intended to be the star. It is intended to be the perfect complement to the food that the chef puts out. Whenever you put those two things backwards, you're in trouble.
So well said. Absolutely. And I know we've had many fabulous dinners or lunches together. What would be your ultimate few pairings with this juicy wine? Because I agree, the way you've designed it with Stephanie and Thane here, which I'm so excited, is it has that juiciness and that beautiful balance, but that richness and mouth-watering feel that you want more. I want another sip now.
Yeah, It's very compelling in the nose and it draws you back into the glass. And that's when you know you've made a great wine. When it pulls you back in and it kind of makes you go, and it just, some things start thinking, you're like, you know what? I'm picking up a couple of notes of this and that, a whisper of tobacco, a whisper of leather in the background. And it just pulls you back in and you want another sip because you want to constantly explore. And I'll give you a fact that you probably don't even realize at this point. This is our wine by the glass in our Palm Steakhouse in all 18 locations in the United States. It is the most expensive wine by the glass that we carry, and I did that on purpose. I wanted our wine to be the most expensive, but guess what? It is the #1 selling wine by the glass in the entire concept. No other wine sells more than Butcher's Choice. Take my word for it. Now,
Well, and I can tell you, you've succeeded at all level, from the packaging to the presentation to that beautiful heavy set bottle. The liquid is insane. And I think the complementarity of what you've described is so exciting. And I really want to thank you for daring to do it, because it's not easy from a logistic to an effort standpoint. You get an A+ on that, because it's a lot more work than people think to actually go to the extra step of making the wine that fits the style of food you have. I mean, it's
and John Charles, I want to thank your team and you specifically, because you let us design the wine the way that we felt that we needed, from the fruit sourcing to the style that we were looking for, that had the weight that we needed, the broad shoulders that we needed, that little touch of masculinity that we needed. You guys listened to what we wanted, and you built it the way that we had hoped. And I can't thank your entire team enough for helping out with that process and taking a vision and actually making it a reality.
Well, you're very kind. And as Dr. Drake would say, it's essential because you are the experts as well of taste. And I think that's what is important as well when we make wine, Scott, is we think about food. You said it, not one of the two should be necessarily dominant. They need to dance. They need to salsa together. They need to be in rhythm together, in osmosis together. And I think that's what you've really achieved. Where do you think, Scott, the world of, steakhouse is going? It seems that the more steakhouse you open, the more success you have. When is it going to stop?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating and staggering ride on this whole steakhouse thing. When we opened up Dick and Anthony Steakhouse in downtown Houston, in an absolute show palace, a stunning property with no detail left behind there. And we noticed, and I'll tell you an interesting thing, coming out of the pandemic, the properties, the restaurants, all the 55 concepts that we own, the steakhouses were the ones that really started coming back in force. And were people that have been holed up and have been, downtrodden and made to stay at home. We are a social being as an animal, and we're not really meant to be isolated at home. But our steakhouses were the first thing that came back with a lot of vim and vigor. And those were the things that really, really kind of showed us. Our more casual dining restaurants, much slower to come back online. The steakhouses, the very first thing, powerful. And when you could and people finally felt comfortable with going out, it was our steakhouses that brought us back together.
That's incredible.
It is.
Oh, it's so impressive. Now, I have to ask you the question. What's your dream next, for heaven's sake?
And I can't speak for Tillman Fertitta, but I'll tell you what I would love. I would love a log cabin somewhere with a beautiful fireplace and a bearskin rug and a bunch of Butcher's Choice Cabernet Sauvignon at my side. And maybe a lady friend or two.
Well, you typically have more than one, if I recall.
Yes.
Well, this is so inspiring. And I really feel, Scott, your career, your charisma, your leadership, your unbelievable friendship and personality shines in everything you do, including this wine, and you exude this passion that is so contagious that we feel in that cellar you just build and stack yourself, and it looks so cool. I could see all the guests you have looking at you. I've seen a few ladies passing by, they were waving to give you their phone numbers, so you're a lucky man. And I have a last question for you, because I know service is starting and you're going to get going, and you're involved everywhere. So not just at the big corporate level. That's what I love about you. You know, you lead by example. What would be your big message to the world as we are in October 2021? You lead over 650 restaurants in the United States, some of the most high-end location, as we've talked about. And, you know, the big message to anyone in your world and in our world.
Yeah, you know, I touched on it a second ago, that the human being is a very social phenomena. And we're one of the few animals in the world, mammals in the world, that have that ability to be social. And so that would be my message, to continue to get together and gather. Families need to get together and gather and have dinner at home again, together, not separate. And bring your children home from college. Make them come home for Thanksgiving dinner. Make them come home and be a family during Christmas. You know, make those efforts to do that, to bring the family back together. And I think if we can accomplish that in the United States wide, a lot the way that Europeans do, we will be a much, much better world and a much better country.
That's a beautiful message, Scott. Thank you so much. I know you're going to have an amazing steak tonight with the butcher's choice.
Yes.
What are you going to have tonight, in fact?
You know, I got to browse through the menu again and maybe find a little something that I haven't had yet on the menu. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that very much so. Believe it or not, I am the guest sommelier this evening for this property. And so I'm looking forward to getting out there and serving some wines to our wonderful guests that are seeing this property for the very, very first time. And I promise you, there'll be Butcher's Choice bottles open this evening.
I love it. Not only leading by example, but being the sum of service. I love it. Scott, you keep amazing me and all of us. It was so fun to be together. Thank you for generously spending an hour with us and inspiring the young, the people in the world, in the business, and the people who retired from the business and say what the hell of a great guy he is and how impressive he is. And I want to commend you for doing what you do and making our world such a great place, and really ultimately marrying wine and food and experiences to this very high level, because every detail is thought of, and this is what I define as luxury. So are we changing your name on your passport? I love Scott. I love Tar. Water, I think it fits better, Tar Wines.
You know, I'll chat with my dad about that tonight and see how that goes over.
I love it. Hey, Scott, thank you. And have a great time tonight serving all the guests and continuing to inspiring the world.
Salute.
Yeehaw.
Yes, I like that. You're getting better. You got to throw in a y'all after that.
Yeah, it's all in the tongue. You know, I have a French tongue. So I need to put it at the right level.
It's all good.
Cheers.
Cheers.